Hi beautiful viewers, welcome back. In today's video, I'll be showing us how to draft a basic bodice pattern. So let's start with the front pattern. So firstly, we need to put the pattern on fold, that is fold your fabric into two. So that's what I did here. Then afterward, the next thing to do, I drew a straight line there to get the shoulder line. Then after the shoulder line, so let's take our vertical measurements, which are the dress length, and I'm working with 25 inches. So here we have 25 inches here as the dress length. Then afterwards, the next thing I did, I gave it a straight line there. And now let's measure the shoulder line. The shoulder line we are working with is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. So there we have it, 7.5. Now the next vertical measurement I am trying to take there is the round sleeve measurement, which is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, which is also 7.5. Then afterwards I gave it a straight row there to have the vertical line. Next is to take the vertical measurement of my bust point, which is the distance between the shoulder and the nipple point, and is we are working with 9.5. So afterwards I gave it a straight row there. Now another vertical measurement to take there is my half length, which is also the measurement from the shoulder to the waist point, which is 16 inches. So the next thing I did there also to give it a straight row after having my half length there. Now the next vertical measurement I'm taking is my hip measurement, and the hip measurement I'm working with is 24 inches. Yours can be 25, 23, it depends. So you just have to take the measurement from your shoulder and to the fullest part of your hip. That's how to get your hip measurement. At this point here, I'm trying to join the round sleeve towards the chest line. So now let's take our horizontal measurements. The first thing here I'm trying to take is my dart, that is from one nipple to another nipple, and the dart measurement we are working with is 7 divided by 2, that's 3.5, then plus 0.5 is that's to make the arc and to get the exact point. So I move down towards the hip measurement also, and I took the measurement from my nipple to nipple, that is the 3.5 and plus the 0.5. So now the next thing to do is to join the lines together with a straight line. So after joining the line together, I came down by 1 from my bust point. So afterwards, then I also up by 2 is at the hip measurement, that is to get my dart. The reason for all this going up by 1 and going up by 2 inches is to get my dart measurement. So here the next thing I did is to come in by 0.5 by the left hand side and also by the right hand side, 0.5 at the waistline. Now the next thing I did here to join the line from the 1 inch I came down from the bust point, then also join the line towards the hip line to form that shape. That is something like a triangular shape. Here is just to label each circumference, that is the bust point, the waist point, and the hip point. So now the next thing to do is to take our circumference, and how to calculate our circumference. That's the body measurement, my bust point divided by 4. That's what I'm doing here. So my bust point divided by 4 is 8 3/4. Then I included 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I did same thing, same measurement for the chest line and also the bust line. For my waist circumference, the waist circumference which I'm working with is 27. Then 27 divided by 4 is 6 3/4. Then plus that sewing allowance. Remember the hat here is 1 inch. Then the 1 inch I need to replace it back to that same line. Then I included 1 for sewing allowance. The hip circumference I'm working with there is 35. 35 divided by 4 is 8 3/4. Then plus 1 for sewing allowance. So the sewing allowance must correspond with each other. That is same sewing allowance for the bust, the waist, and the hip line. Now the next thing to do is to join each point together from the chest line to meet the bust point, then the waist point, and also the hip circumference. So here we have it. And at the waist point, I'm just trying to make it a bit curvy. So now the next thing I'm trying to do here is to take my neckline measurement, and the basic measurement for the neckline is 3 inches by 3 inches. That is 3 inches for the wideness and 3 inches for the length. A box first, then also take my master ruler to give it that curve shape. You can as well use the freehand method to make that curve shape. The next thing to do, from the shoulder line I came down by 1 inch. That is, we are trying to get our shoulder slope at this point to draw a slant shape from the neckline point towards the round sleeve to get the shoulder slope. That is a slant shape. You know, our shoulder is not that straight, so to have that slant shape I came down by 1 inch. Here to get my round sleeve shape, I came down, like I took a measurement from where the shoulder slope stopped, then I divided by 2 to get the point at which I'm going to have that shape for my round sleeve. At that point, I measured 3/4 inward. So after making that curve, the next thing I did is just to join the points together towards the chest line. To measure the back pattern, the only thing I did here was to place a plain pattern, then my front bodice pattern, I placed it on it, and also this zipper allowance, I left a space of 1.25, that is 1 and quarter. Here the straight line here is for the zipper allowance. Then the next thing to do here is just to trace my front pattern after the zipper allowance. You can as well use a tracing wheel if you have, or you can as well start from fresh, that is start taking the measurements. But what I did here is just to place the front pattern on it and trace it out. The bust point, the waist, and also the hip line, then connect each point together. So the neckline I'll be working with for the back pattern here is 1.5 to 3 inches. For the front, we use 3 by 3 inches, but for the back neckline I'm using 3 inches for the wideness and 1.5 for the length. And please take note, the neckline wideness must align with each other. That is, if you are using 4 inches for the front for the wideness, it must also be 4 inches for the wideness for the back pattern. The next thing to do here is to take our dart, and also how to take our dart. I came down by 1 inch from the round sleeve, that is from the chest point, just come down by 1 inch. That of the front pattern, you have to come down from the bust point, but for the back pattern I came down by 1 inches at the chest line. So here we go with it. Then afterwards, I also took the measurement of my nipple to nipple distance, which we are working with 3.5, then plus the 0.5 is. So afterwards, I also went down to the waistline and also take the measurement of the nipple to nipple distance. So at the hip line by 2 inches to get the point, that is our dart point. So here I try to connect the lines together just as I did for the front pattern. So it's the same method. The only difference here is the chest line, which I came down by 1 inch, and for the front pattern I came down at the bust point by 1 inches. So here I'm just trying to connect the points together just as I did for the front pattern. Let's solve the problem of a zipper bulge. At the zipper line, that is at the waist point, I try to come in by half of an inch along the zipper line, then also out by half an inch, that is both left and right in between the line there, half of an inch. Just watch what I'm doing here. So the next thing is to connect it from the half of an inch which I came in, then connect it towards the chest line in a kind of a slant shape, and also in a slant shape towards the hip line. Afterwards, the other half of an inch towards the front side, that is the left hand side, the other side too. I also gave it that same slant shape towards the chest line and also towards the hip line. So that's how to solve the zipper bulge. So while sewing, we sew through that slant shape, that is where I just altered now. From the half of an inch I came in, I connect it back to the chest line and also connect it down to the hip line to have a kind of a slant shape to take my shoulder slope. Remember, I came down by 1 inch for the front pattern, so also the same thing for the back pattern. I came down by 1 inches. So the next thing to do here to divide the round sleeve into two to get the point at which I'm going to cuff my round sleeve. So there I have it, and I came in by 1/2 inch. So afterwards, the next thing I did was to take my master ruler and make that cuff shape to meet my chest line. So now here also, I also took the master ruler to make that cuff shape for my neckline. And that's it. So here is our zipper allowance. I'm just trying to label it. There is to cut out the zipper bulge. Don't forget to cut that slant shape. Altinas lovers, returning subscribers, thanks for always staying tuned to this channel. I love and appreciate you all. God bless you all.